Fa la 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 la. Welcome to this week Airlines flight. Oh, 715. Interesting. We're heading to Hobart Town in Tasmania, Australia. Just getting all my final things together. Lip balm. Can't fly a plane without lip balm. Got my coffee. Got my throat lozenges because, yeah, I've still got a friggin' allergy thing going on. Joy, oh joy. It's a pleasant 9 degrees Celsius. Not really pleasant. Look out, minor bird. It's a bit, hey, blissful in Texas. It's actually a bit wintry. We're going to have a day this week. No, not this week, next week, where it's only going to get to 9 degrees Celsius as the maximum temperature. That is not a summer temperature. Other parts of the country are going to get absolutely battered with gigantic amounts of rainfall. And then there's fires predicted in other parts of the country. And yeah, we're getting a winter blast. In fact, the state of Victoria, which is the closest to Tassie, just over the water from here, well, it's across Bass Strait, which is 50-minute plane flight, but, you know, a 12-hour day trip in a boat. They're going to be getting snow on their snowfields. I've got the two Texas lovers. Hello, beautifuls. So I'm completely and utterly going live, not because I'm going to give you a Crime Week roundup of stories. Well, I'm going to let you know what I know, but I don't know much. I'm relying on you guys to fill me in because I had a week. Oh, look at you all romantic with each other in the chat. Ooh, lovers. Oh, dear. It's good to have you here. And beautiful Bristol, too. Yay. Gang's all here. Bristol, you're always cleaning. Yeah, we're getting a winter blast. These bloody climate change deniers really need a swift kick up the clacker, you know? Like, come on. Actually, I did a survey yesterday. I belong to a few survey sites and I find it quite enjoyable. And then, you know, you do a few surveys and then you're like, oh, here's a $50 gift card. And it's like, well, thank you very much. But one of them was about scientists and I probably ticked some, said I wouldn't tell anyone about it, but a bit like a Brian Koberger survey, but it was about scientists and climate change. Not how did you feel while you were brutally murdering someone. And yeah, I mean, it was sort of, you know, do you believe in climate change? How do you feel about climate change deniers? Do you think politicians should be listening to scientists? All those sorts of interesting topics. Yep, no global warming and the earth is flat. Tinfoil hat, everyone. That's what you need on this plane. If you are thirsty or hungry, a tough shit if you didn't bring your own snacks and beverages. You didn't read the memo. We don't have seatbelts. This is high risk flying. We also fly at a very low altitude. Some would actually say we fly along a road, but you know, semantics. I know for a fact that occasionally this aircraft gets airborne. I've got so much to talk about, but nothing to do with all the things that I normally talk about on this channel, like, you know, crime. But I did go and see my favourite. Well, he's an equal first place with a couple of other authors. I can't separate my love for them. But the fabulous David Sedaris from New York City graced our beautiful island again with his presence. He's a bit of a, I can't say he's a regular, but he's been here quite a few times. He hasn't come here and gone, well, this place is shit, I'm never going back there again. And one thing I noticed when I first discovered the brilliance that is David Sedaris, and if you're not into him, if you haven't read even one of his essays or letters, or he submits a lot of stuff to a lot of different publishers in the States, but he also has written novels, and he's also written books that are like a selection of essays that he's written. But you can also jump onto the YouTubes and type his name in, and there is a channel called Honest as recordings of David performing around the world, doing these, reading out these writings of his, and he's fabulous. And he's like funny writers. Absolutely hilarious. I can't remember the guy's full name. His first name's Andrew. His first book, I think, was called Less. And then his second book, which is the one David was promoting, is called Less is Lost. Amy's gold. Amy is absolute gold. Love them both. The David Amy combo too. The two of them in action. Hilarious. But yeah, it was really fantastic. But what I was going to, where did I go? Where did I bring Dave? Well, apart from the fact that I'm still glowing in the love and joy that is David Sedaris. It's actually Sedaris, I think, too. The correct pronunciation by him, I believe, is Sedaris. I've always called him Sedaris. I'm not quite into Sedarising him yet, but I will, out of respect. Have you had heaps of mass shootings? Have you had heaps more? The last one, I've only been able to bounce onto even listen to a few things. So I know that the heinous trial ended with a guilty verdict, Mark Jensen. That's great news. I've listened to a bit of the Alec Murdoch trial, and it's such a weird trial to watch because, you know, all evidence is pointing at him doing it. But the prosecution are just, I think, making massive mistakes. And I'm not to the point that I think he'll get acquitted, but I don't know. I haven't watched enough of it, but the bits of the prosecution I've been able to listen to, I'm like, what are these guys doing? Like, the worst thing you can do is overcomplicate things for a jury. And it's so important at the very start, as pedantic and tiresome as it seems when you're working in a courtroom or when you're even watching a trial. When you've researched it and know the background and everything else, it seems very basic and overly simplified at the start of the trial, but a really good prosecutor and defence lawyer need to set a very clear scene for the jury and then bring out the evidence bit by bit to prove that the story they told at the start was accurate. But also the jury's got this really clear framework, so as little bits of evidence come out, they can also either make notes or picture it in their minds of where it fits into that clear picture. Oh, I haven't seen that video with the dog. I've only been able to listen to a little bit because I've got a new gadget in my car and it has turned my 2009 no Bluetooth car into a Bluetooth car. And I'll tell you about it. It cost me, I bought two of them. So I think it was $75 total. The Socket Rocket. Holy shit. Remind me to tell you about my Socket Rocket. I probably will at one point because I'm blown away by this tiny little gadget and how it's converted my car into a 2023 modern machine. Unbelievable. I love technology. but this gadget is life-changing. So I went on all kinds of, so the bits of the Murdoch trial I've been listening to me, I feel that the prosecution has overcomplicated things for the jury. I wouldn't be surprised if half of them are just like, huh? What? Like, because that's what I'm like listening to them. I also noticed this morning, it's really, really unpleasant, as you guys know. And look, even Finn does it a lot with me, but he's hyper. But, even on YouTube, when you're listening to a panel and people are just talking over the top of each other and you sort of feel like, rein it in, guys. And when it's an ad-libbed conversation, it's going to happen. And if you've got someone who's a bit hyper and just wants to talk all the time, it will happen. But in a courtroom, it's very bad to, as a prosecutor or as a defense lawyer, to ask your witness, a question and not even let them finish their sentence. And they're doing that. I was listening to them examining a forensic expert, like a digital forensic expert, and they kept cutting him off. And I don't know who it was because, like I said, I was listening. I wasn't watching it. But that's something that really gives the jury the shits. But also, it's so disrespectful to the witness, especially an expert witness, who you're potentially paying to give evidence because, their time is money. They will bill you for their time. And they're the expert. Like, your role is to prevent evidence from every possible angle to build your case. So I don't know. I mean, like I said, I don't think it's enough that might lead to an acquittal, but it could be enough to lead to a hung jury. Because I think they've just overcomplicated everything so much. And it really doesn't need to be overcomplicated. Like, in a civil trial, especially one where you're looking at misuse of money and you have all these, forensic accountants and people who talk in dollar signs and numbers, giving evidence, that can get incredibly complicated. And sometimes you just don't have the opportunity to simplify that stuff because it is, by its very nature, complicated, to me anyway. I mean, if you're fluent in numbers, it's not, but when you're trying to get a conviction, keeping things really clear and succinct, but also setting up a framework at the start and sticking to that, I think it's really important. And, even if it means, like with the Murdoch property and where Maggie and Paul's bodies were found, like just drawing a very simple diagram and marking out where they were found. But from my recollection at the start, they just showed the body cam footage. And body cam footage is really difficult to, I think. I mean, sometimes you see body cam footage, it's very straightforward, but it's very difficult to get a really clear picture of what the hell's going on with the body cam. I mean, look at Tari Nichols. So many people that saw the body cam footage and didn't think that it was even remotely close to how bad it was. And then they saw the street, the footage from the pole in the street, and there was no mistaking how hideous that was. We're going over Scout's favourite causeway, just missing it. You snooze, you lose, Scouting Fire. Oh, it was one of those things that I undenied about whether or not I wanted to watch it, and then I was like, no, I do want to watch it because not that I was planning on doing a live, and I would never have shown it on my channel. I would never have inflicted it on my viewers at all. In fact, I got a bit annoyed that so many creators were showing it because you didn't need to. You could simply describe it, and even that in words alone was horrific. But as part of my curiosity and having to know all the if I am going to even make a comment, I guess, and also in my career, I've seen a lot of incredibly graphic things. But I've got to tell you, I've never seen anything worse than that. It was just, I mean, I can't diminish what happened to Rodney King, but people were comparing it, and it's like, there's no comparison. This is next level hideousness. So, yeah, it was more of a, for me to be fully informed and to have an opinion on it. If I'm going to be live on a platform like YouTube, I feel like I have to at least research thoroughly. But I did go to another channel that was saying they were going to play it the next day, and I sort of said in the chat, you know, anyone who has watched it, you need to get offline now and just do some self-care stuff, like get out and get some fresh air, go for a walk, have a cry, do something creative, spend some time with your animals, call someone you love. Like, I gave all these self-care kind of activities for people to do because it was very graphic. And, you know, the poor crows of YouTube latched onto it and showed it, and if I covered it, I mean, I bawled my eyes out watching it. It was so sad. If I had have decided to cover it, at least I was able to warn you guys that the footage was out there, and if you wanted to go and watch it, that was your call, but it was not for the faint-hearted. And for these channels to be showing it, and, you know, hundreds of people rolling in, as always, it really concerned me how it would impact people, because, like I said, I've seen a lot of graphic things in my life and in my career as a lawyer, but it was horrific. Two channels are live, doing a sneaky glance at the phone, with the FBI losing BK for an hour. Eh? Which mainstream media outlet put that bullshit out there for people to get all fired up about? Losing BK for an hour and finding him an hour later. You don't know. Someone would have, you know that though, right? Someone would have. But I've got the mainstream media and the way they're feeding all these online sleuths, and they must be saying their numbers are going through the roof, because now we've got all these online sleuths who are not true crime at all, because facts don't matter. So I see one more person ignoring facts and speculating, going, we're allowed to speculate. I'm going to lose my mind. Speculate using the facts all you want. You can even throw in a bit of common sense and logic when you do that. Doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be definitively correct, but sometimes there's just facts that lined up in a row. Common sense tells you this is what happened. For example, a receipt from a fast food place that notes you've used your card to purchase food and a drink at 12 o'clock or whatever. It's okay to use your common sense and go, well, that person purchased food and a drink at midnight using their card at Hungry Jack's, or oh, wait a minute, Hungry Jack's is what you guys call Burger King. In Australia, it's called Hungry Jack's. Same thing, but different name. Joey Wilson. Doing good groups. I mean, I'm actually dreading work today. It's going to be hideous. Only because I know, because I was scheduling clients for myself on Friday. That's how busy we are. We've got, I think next week's pretty full too. We are so busy, it's ridiculous, and it's very hard to stay calm and not get too stressed just from the volume of clients and work. It's insane. Looks like he just did a heap of emojis, Joey, but in StreamYard it's just describing them. So it's like purple, blue, peace, and it's actually written it in words, not. Whereas I can see Texas's blue love heart. God, I went on a little rampage there, but back to the fabulous David Sedaris. One thing I learned very early on reading his books is he has a true crime passion, for sure, for sure. OG true crime. There are a lot of references in his writing about murders and his vivid imagination, like when he goes tiptoeing around his house in the middle of the night, there's always a reference to a serial killer lurking in the shadows, and a lot of true crime stuff featured in his show the other night too. And I've always connected with him because of his incredible writing and his hilarious personality. And I've observed the crime references because they feature prominently. But I tell you what, it was so nice to just be in a room watching a man read his essays and speak about true crime like the OG true crime world. I was like, you little beauty. And he's very scathing about social media, but didn't go into the social media impacting criminal trials or anything like that. But it was just so lovely to listen to someone speaking about his, I mean, he didn't out and out say, I'm into true crime, but he was referencing true crime throughout the show, but it was that old-fashioned, like us, like me, the OG true crime world, not the new sleuther nightmares. I was like, yeah, take one for the home team, David. God bless you. Scout, hello. We mentioned you, well, I mentioned you as we went over your favourite causeway. I was like, where be Scout? Scout be missing her favourite causeway. I can't read chat at the moment, guys. I left home a bit later than usual. bit more traffic than usual. Got to pay attention. And next week it's going to get worse because the schools are back from the summer break. So we're going to have all the gigantic four-wheel drives with some blonde-haired, bright pink lipstick mum driving along with one 5-year-old kid sitting in the back seat, multiplied by 50,000 buckets. We'll have a bit of time in the car park, not as much as we usually get, but we'll have some time, so we'll be able to have a chat then too. There's so much for me to catch up on. I'm out of the loop. Well, I know that Mark Jensen got found guilty. New guilty. Epic outcome with the evidence being excluded that it, allegedly had convinced juries in the past with that prick that he was guilty, and then they took that evidence out, in particular a letter that his wife had written saying basically if anything happens to me, look at my husband, and they still found him guilty. It's brilliant. Off you go, Mark. See ya. You could have made a living as a Kevin Bacon impersonator for the rest of your life, but no, you chose to kill your wife, and you're where you belong. Good riddance. Laundry. Is that a Brian Laundry reference or a washing in undies reference? Oh, another thing I found in my bouncings around was Wally Golightly and Bullhorn Betty being Karens in a furniture shop and recording it, and then I assume putting it out on YouTube expecting everyone to go, oh my God, you were so poorly treated by that staff member at that furniture shop. You poor things, but it actually just highlighted what a pair of assholes the two of them are. Did anyone see that? Those shenanigans. That moment when you think everyone on YouTube's going to go, get that woman sacked. She was so out of line. And everyone's like, that woman's amazing. You two are Karens. I did catch a bit of that. But other than that, I'm a bit clueless. It's been a very typical summer's week with many social events. Been busy, and I'm very out of the loop. And it's weird, you get withdrawals when you've got things you want to chat about on YouTube, and unless you sort of go live at midnight when you really need to be in bed because you're working the next day, there's very little opportunity to do it. And even like I have gone for beach walks this week, but one of my shifts this year is YouTube is more fun if I'm not connected to my gadgets the rest of the day. And the fact that I have to use a computer at work, friends still prefer to type messages in Messenger than hit the dial button, which really annoys me. So anyone who messages me, I instantly call them, because I'm really trying to, not that I'm gadget attached 24/7, but just the nature of my world, I do have to spend a lot of time on gadgets. So when I have opportunities to be gadget free, I'm doing that. So like beach walks and going to the beach for swims and stuff, this year I leave my phone at home. I'll have to start like booking in a YouTube beach walk and allow myself to take my gadget with me to do that. But I'm not I'm not addicted to my gadgets, but I guess it's a digital detox of sorts. Even down to things like when I used to travel so much, I got in the habit of downloading ebooks because back in the day when I used to travel, half of my suitcase was books, paperbacks, and my suitcase would weigh a ton, or my backpack would weigh a ton. I'd have hardly any clothing, but I'd have plenty of books to read, which was ridiculous because these days, when you travel, most places have free book exchanges and all of that sort of stuff. But back when I first started traveling, I took books with me. And then when I started really exploring Asia, I loved just having hand luggage only because you really don't need a lot of clothing. I mean, you need clothes, but you don't need mountains of stuff, and you need really lightweight because it's so hot and humid. So I got into the habit, not really by choice, because I still prefer holding a book. Like I took a paperback with me to Singapore, but this year I'm not allowed to buy one ebook. I've still got ebooks I need to read, but I'm not allowed to buy any. If I want to buy a book, it's got to be a hard copy, a paperback. So even the other night, after seeing David Sedaris, I grabbed one of his books, Happy Go Lucky, which I haven't read yet, which came out, I think, in about June last year. And even just the title, I'm like, I just want that lying around my house. So if people come and visit and they see a book called Happy Go Lucky, it'll make them smile. I will be able to chat with you, Groovers, soon too, if you've got things you want to talk about. I'm a bit concerned that there's been more mass shootings because the last one I was aware of was the dance hall in Monterey, California. That was the last one. Yeah, that's a good thing to do too, Scout, for safety. I mean, not that I take it for granted, but we don't have to take those sorts of precautions where I live yet. I mean, it doesn't mean something bad may not happen to me. Bad people are all over the world, but it's not it's not something I have to factor in when I'm going to the beach because I can just leave my phone and go down, have a swim, come back up through the dunes, up the hill. Like, that's not part of my preparation for my days to think about safety. If I'd been to something in town late at night and I had to walk to my car, I'd have my phone in my hand just in case. But yeah, beach walk or whatever. But I mean, I'm not walking through woods. If I was walking through woods or hiking through a forest, that sort of stuff, I'd definitely take my phone with me for safety for sure. And not so much that I think something bad's going to happen to me, but if I fell and, broke my ankle or something, hopefully I'd do it in an area where there was mobile phone reception and someone would be able to come and get me. Thriftbooks.com to buy reused books at an awesome price. Yeah, that's a great idea too. Although down where we live, there's book exchanges everywhere. Like, it's really common here for people to build a little hutch outside the front of their house, or even like a little cubby house, and put shelves in it and have it, weatherproofed. They often have a glass door, and you just rock up with one of the books you've just finished reading and choose another book from the selection, and off you go again. You don't even have to pay. It's an exchange. And even like the little takeaway fish and chip shop down where I live has a book exchange in it. Like, they're really, really common here, especially in areas like mine, which are, the population of where I live doubles over summer because it's a summer destination. How's Joey gone? She was chatting about something I wanted to ask her about, I thought. Hi, Joe. Or she might have made a comment that I wanted to respond to. I'll go back through the chat. It's not like I'm overwhelmed with chatters. But yeah, we've got some wintry weather coming up, so there could be a lot of YouTubing going on. And also just socially, I've had a lot of things. Like next weekend, I've got a huge weekend. It's so weird. I've got quite a lot of friends with, 0 birthdays coming up. I've got a 30th. Can you believe I'm going to a 30th? I'm going to a 30th birthday next weekend. And I've got a 40th in March. Hey, look, my old park is waiting for me. I thought, because I'm half an hour later than I usually am. I didn't think there'd be parks downstairs, but there are. We don't have book exchange boxes because, they ruined it. That sucks. That really sucks. But, look, this island is a bit special because we're small and we're still very community-minded and people trust each other and we still do the right thing. That'll change at some point, but probably not in my lifetime. But we also have a lot of road stores where you can buy fresh produce and fresh flowers. And they have like a little honesty jar that you put your money in, and very few people ever say that they were ripped off or someone took everything. We have a little community pantry down where I live, which is held at a community hall, and a lot of providers, producers from around the area donate fresh fruit, veggies, food, meat, fish, all sorts of things, milks. And it's done on a trust basis. Like if you need food, you can go there and help yourself to food from the pantry, but nobody questions whether you can afford food at the moment or not. And again, like nobody, I'm not saying nobody, but people don't take advantage of it and go in there and take everything and other people miss out. Like everyone just respects that particular pantry is for people in need, and we often donate things to them like tin things, and they put together amazing Christmas hampers and stuff. But they, I've never seen them put anything on their Facebook page or their website saying that they feel like people that are not actually in need are taking advantage of it. But if I was driving home and I went past there and was like, I might pop in and grab a bag of potatoes, for example. I need some potatoes for dinner. I'll go and grab 4 potatoes. Even though I donate there all the time, they wouldn't question it. They'd be like, yeah, fair enough, all the other shops are closed. So it's sort of, not that I've ever done that, but they wouldn't turn anyone away either. But that website sounds fantastic. We need people to read more, and that's the other thing. I've really got into reading again, so I'm spending a fair bit of time with my nose buried in books at the moment, which is, used to be, I guess, YouTube time. But then I'm sort of like, well, what I'm reading can end up becoming quite useful in the things I do on YouTube. So I do know I need to schedule YouTube stuff each week and stick to it and just go, yes, it's a gorgeous day outside, and yes, you do want to go for a swim, but this is 1 hour of your day. I need to be a bit more organised. And it's hard too because I've had this friggin' allergy thing for a couple of weeks now, and the worst thing about it is how lethargic it makes you. It's not actually, the coughing and spluttering and everything else, the bloodshot eyes and the teary eyes all the time, I can deal with all of that, but it's the actual um, how lethargic you get on it. That's what's really bugging me because work is feral, rewarding, but really feral. And then when you get home, you just want to sleep because you're emotionally drained. And then you wake up the next day and you have no energy because you've got your allergy. It's just I'm in a loop of things. You've been loving winter and playing in the snow. Well, we might get snow because next week, because one day it's only going to be 9 degrees. I mean, we don't get snow at sea level. When we do once every 5 or 6 years, but it's like a random one-off kind of thing. Like people here don't have, shovels to clear pathways, or we don't have snow tires or chains for our tires or things like that. Because once every 6 years we might get snow at sea level, and the next day it's all melted anyway. Books are fantastic. I kind of feel like, um, because another thing I've started, oh shit, I've got so much going on right now. Um, I've also started writing 2 books, and then I was thinking, well, I could read what I'm writing on YouTube, and then I was like, but then no one will buy the book. So I'm thinking, well, maybe I should be a bit like David Sedaris and just write essays and do them. And then I'm like, yeah, but I want them to go in my book. So then I'm like, okay, write the book, see if you can get it published or self-publish it, and then read it once it's published. Maybe. I don't know. There's so much going on in my world right now, it's ridiculous. But I think if I schedule my week, I mean, I meal plan, so it's like I need to time plan as well. Oh, you've got a cold weekend coming up. It's exciting, Blissful. I don't know if anyone will buy my books. I've got 2 books at the moment that are happening slowly, and then I've also got an idea for another book that I really want to write, but it's going to take a lot of research time. But one book is about Biscuit Scout. It's a kid-friendly book, but it's not a kid's book, but it will probably be bought by a lot of parents for their kids because it's it's Biscuit's story, but it's primarily a photo book with, I think, so far, pretty hilarious captions. But yeah, and parents will definitely give it to kids and read it to their kids because it's got a really positive message in it. But it's actually, the way I'm writing it is it's a book for adults to pick up and just randomly open and read a caption, and just to, if they're a bit anxious or they're feeling a bit blue, a bit sad, they'll pick up the book and they'll have a look at a photo of Biscuit with a funny little caption, and it'll just make them smile. So it's got a message for grown-ups too that are struggling with mental health issues. Well, they don't even have to have mental health issues, just struggling emotionally. It's sort of being written as a little book of not even hope. I mean, there's definitely a message of hope in it, but it will just be a book that people can just randomly, like I said, they'll open a page, they'll see a photo of Biscuit with a caption, and hopefully it'll make them smile. So that's one book. And the problem with that book at the moment for me is I've got way too many photos, and I've got to colour it a bit, and I've also got to colour it so that the storyline, because even though you can randomly open a page, You can also read it from cover to cover, and there's a story. So each thing standalone is able to give people instant joy, but you can also read it as a book from cover to cover. So each caption has to keep moving the story forward, but also in its own right be a brief little moment of gorgeousness. And that's where the writing is crucial. But it's also not an overly complicated book. So yeah, that's one of them. And I just have to put some powder on so I can put my glasses back on and check the chat. The second book, and this one I'm a bit uncomfortable with, but last year I joined a writers group, and it's just an interesting group to get with other people who are already published authors or are trying to become published. And it's not we don't like brainstorm ideas for each other or anything like that. We just sit around and chat. And from us chatting about, we have to bring 3 things to the table to discuss. And it's actually been such a long time since we had a meeting. But one of them is I'm trying to think of it. When I used to do radio, we used to call it, there were 3 things. There was like a rose, a thorn, and something else. But it's basically something beautiful that happened that week or month that you're really grateful for, like a gratitude kind of thing, some sort of story that made you realize how blessed you are, I guess. Then there's like a challenge that you've been facing. That's sort of like the thorn, or it might be an encounter with a Karen. Just something a little bit like, people, we're not that great actually. And then I can't even remember what the third one is, but it just gets us talking. And then from our conversations, ideas developed. And the first couple of times I went to our gatherings, somehow, I don't know, stories about my past would sort of come into the mix, or different careers that I've had, and just things. And pretty much all in unison, all the girls at that gathering said to me, you need to write a memoir. And I was like, I can't think of anything worse than me spending hours of my life writing a book about myself. Like, that just makes me feel self-indulgent and sick. And then they were like, well, don't look at it that way. Look at it as each chapter is just one of the stories that you've just told us. And then chuck them all together and you've got a memoir. And then I was like, but who's going to want to read it? Like, everyone's got interesting life stories. Why would anyone want to read about my life? Like, it's pretty much just a life. It's not an extraordinary life. And they were like, no, but it's funny. And you've got all these great stories and you should put them all in a book. So that's what I'm doing, with a fair amount of discomfort. Yeah, Bat Bicky. You're putting in an order. Thank you. I love reading books to the little ones at our local library, and I get the characters to act out what I'm reading. For example, we had Cat in the Hat and Tigger and Winnie the Pooh costumes. Dr. Seuss is one of my favourite. He's up there with David Sedaris. They're both in my favourite writers of all time, favourite authors list. My memoir would be titled, I Arrived, Had Anxiety and Left. Well, it's a good title. I mean, the one thing I do like about my, I've even forgotten, memoir, is that the working title might be eye-catching and it might actually make people buy it. But Yeah, it's so I'm just putting stories of my life together, and I'm just writing one story at a time, and then just sort of looking at it and thinking, where does this slot in? I mean, I'm hoping to get a really good editor who can link them all so that they kind of segue a little bit. In fact, the last two stories I wrote do naturally segue into each other. But I'm trying to work out whether it's going to be this sort of rollicking good read that goes up and down and, it's a bit like a roller coaster ride, or whether I go for more of a series of merry-go-rounds in a row and have like a chunk of funny and then a chunk of sad. But I mean, the sad stuff's got funny in it as well. But yeah, I would need the help of a really good editor to just look at it and go, okay, I think this is the natural order for you. Because at the moment, to me, it's like, but then, I mean, maybe that's, David Sedaris's books are a bit like that. You don't know what the next chapter is going to be like. It might be heartbreakingly sad with humour throughout, or it might be, another one of his absolute rip snorters. But yeah, so that's what I'm doing at the moment. And then the third book is about my ancestry, because let me work this out, great, 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 great grandmother, I think, or it might be my great, great, great grandmother, is on the $20 bill in Australia. And nobody knows much about her at all. In fact, a lot of people think she's a dude because she sort of looks pretty serious and she's got a big double chin like me. Thank you, Mary. I know where I get my chin from. Cheers. Doesn't matter how thin I get, I've always got a bloody double chin. But that's another story to whinge about. But yeah, not many people really know her story and why she's ended up on our money. And trust me, guys, just because I've got a relative on money, we're not rich at all. But I started reading her story or researching her, and her story is fantastic. And she came out to Australia on the First Fleet as a convict, and she's ended up on our money. So, yeah, I'm doing a book about her as well. But she's in the background for now. I've really just got to focus on Biscuit's my priority at the moment, her book. And then my memoir might end up being my third book. The second book might be about this ancestor on our money, because her story is really good. And I'm only just scraping the surface. I've got to spend some time with my mum's sister, my aunt Annabelle, because she's already done quite a bit of research on all of our family members. So Annabelle will have a trove of information and research to share with me, I'm hoping. And she's retired now and may even co-write it with me. She's definitely got a lot of Mary's belongings and a tapestry that she did while they were coming out to Australia on the First Fleet. So, yeah, I might see if Annabelle wants to team up with me and publish a book about her, because she's just so interesting and impressive. And it's just so quirky to have a family member with a great story. And, and it explains why she ended up on our money. But she was quite an extraordinary chick. What she achieved, not just in Australia, but also before she was transported. Like, she had an amazing life before she stole a horse and got caught. But when you know why she stole the horse, you're kind of like, well, you probably should have just let it slide because of what she was achieving where she lived. But anyway, they didn't. They sent her out to Australia. And she met her husband on the First Fleet as well. And he was an architect who also committed a crime. Petty, very petty. And they ended up building houses for the governors in Tasmania, and that's how they became emancipated. But yeah, there's way more to the story, but it's really interesting. Yeah, the famous miracle, exactly, rich in heritage. Double, I know. No, it's Mary Raby, not Caroline Chisholm. You're back, Joey. Where'd you go? Oh, look, you two are even going to read books together. You're so disgustingly in love, it's revolting. Go away. No, I'm kidding. Don't. I love it. Yeah, the famous Muriel Bicky, your mum is the family historian. Yeah, my mum and not my dad so much. I mean, my dad didn't keep records, but my dad knew, like, he could quote a lot of stuff. Shit, it's 8:11. Like, Dad, it was all in his head, and we used to say, "Put it in writing, Dad. You're going to die, and take all this knowledge with you." And of course, he died and took all of his knowledge with him. But my mum had an interest in it too, but all of her stuff went to my auntie in that kind of family history stuff. Oh, handy, Joe. I'll let you know. Because it'd be good to see what information's out there beyond what me and the family have and know. Can I make a recommendation? Videotape and record now with talking to them, because if anything happens, you have all the story. Yes. Yeah, good recommendation. I won't do what my dad did. Oh, well, your dad's right into it. The Murdoch trial's on a break. Oh, were you going over to watch it? Yeah, I was actually talking about that trial before you girls arrived. I mean, I would never tell you to replay Crew, but I put some opinions out about the prosecution and how they're doing it, and I actually think they've dropped the ball a bit. I think they've made things really complicated for the jury. I don't necessarily think it's going to lead to an acquittal, but I haven't followed it closely enough to be able to say with confidence that I don't think it'll lead to an acquittal. But I do think they're making major errors in terms of putting a clear case to the jury. And the tiny bit that I listened to this morning while I was getting ready, whoever was questioning was talking over a forensic witness, and that really annoyed me too. Like, they kept cutting him off. And don't put a really good question to your witness and then not let them finish answering it. So, yeah, I don't think they're as slick as I did at the start. Although even at the start, the defence opening knocked theirs out of the ballpark. But, you know, it's definitely not looking good for Alec. But, yeah, the prosecution's just really overcomplicated it, I think. I think as a juror, I don't think many of them have a clear picture of it. And I was talking about how they should have just done very basic maps. They've just drawn them showing where Maggie and Paul's bodies were found, rather than starting with the webcam footage or the body cam footage, because that is very difficult to follow and get an idea of the layout and, you know, the scene essentially. And then I compared that to the difference between the body cam footage with Tyree Nichols and the footage from that camera up on that pole. And how, I mean, it's hideous and I wouldn't recommend anyone watches it, but the YouTubers that were just looking at the body cam couldn't really explain what was going on. But then when you look at the poll footage, it's clear as day how violent and vile it was. And I feel that, yeah, I think the prosecution hasn't been that great, in my opinion. All right. No worries, Joey. Have a good day, Grooves. Yeah, I wish I'd recorded Mum and my grandparents. I mean, there's so many, I don't think my grandparents weren't, I wasn't really young when they died, but I wasn't really old either. And I still consider myself pretty young when Mum died. But yeah, I wish I'd paid more attention and taken notes because my memory is just terrible. Yeah, family histories are fantastic, and it's just great to go for that little, delve and research. And I mean, we're lucky, I guess, because Mary ended up on our money. There's a lot of information out there about her, but I really want to try and pitch it from like her voice. And the best way I'm going to do that is to get access to. I know that my auntie's got a lot of letters that she wrote as well. I mean, there's another family member who's fascinating too, an artist called Loudon St Hill, who was Noel Coward's lover. Um, and he was an artist and he designed costumes for the Royal London Shakespearean Theatre Company. And the only sort of acclaimed artist in our family, and fascinating. But he wrote a series of letters to Noel Coward when they were apart, because he'd be based in London and Noel would be flitting around Europe and going to parties at Oscar Wilde's house and all sorts of stuff. But our family's got all the letters that Noel wrote to Loudon. And they're fascinating and really funny, like beautifully written by Noel, as he wrote so well. And I don't know why they're not a book either, but my auntie's got all of those letters. And they talk about parties at Oscar Wilde's house all the time. And they're hanging out with people like Anais Nin and all these writers and artists and musicians. And so that's another interesting family member. Also on my mother's side, my mum's maiden name was St Hill, which I wish was my surname because I love it. I'd love to have been a St Hill. But alas, I'm not. But from my uncle John and his son John Loudon, there's no others. And John Loudon's two children at the moment. His boy's got boys, and they're both St Hills. So the name will carry on. But I would have loved to have been a St Hill. Although Victoria St Hill, I get when people find out my name's Victoria, they're like, "Oh, Victoria," and they say it in a really posh way to me, and I'm like, "What the fuck are you doing with my name? It's Victoria, man." And if I was Victoria St Hill, I imagine I would have been I would have copped the double posh. Oh, Victoria St Hill. Although interestingly, my auntie, who's married to my uncle John St Hill, when they had a daughter, she actually contemplated calling her Tori, and then decided that one Tory in the family was more than enough. But Tori St Hill's not super posh. Oh, I've got a thread off my cardigan. Right. I'll sort that out with my scissors at my office. I'm going to go, Groovers. Thank you so much for hanging out. Read books. It would have been double posh. Read books. Get them cheap. Talk to your friends about books that you're reading. I always think about, taking my book I've read to the book exchange, and then it's so weird. Like a friend and I will have a conversation and I'll be like, oh my God, I know the book you need to read right now. Okay, we have a problem. Where the fuck is my wallet? It's got to be somewhere because I put my ticket in it. Yeah, I got it. Phew. That's a really unbearable couple of seconds, isn't it, when you don't know where your wallet is? It's like, how am I going to get out of the car park? How am I going to buy lunch? I didn't bring lunch today. I was faffing around last night and I was faffing around this morning. Have a fabulous day, Groovers. I love you heaps. Thanks for hanging out with me in a gorgeous little community. I'd love this channel to grow. I don't know what I need to do to make that happen, but God damn it, by the end of the year, my goal is to have us at 1,000 subscribers, and we're over halfway there. So I'm soldiering on. I love you all very much. Genuinely, I do. But until next time, don't get hit by, don't get struck by a smooth criminal. And I'll give Sunny your love when I get home. She'll be happy to see me. She was very unhappy to see me leaving. Bye, beautiful people.